Good morning, sixth grade. So today we're going to be figuring out algebraically how to find the percent of a number. So we've been doing this with bar models the last few days, but today we're going to get to do this with math. So what I'm starting out with is half a sheet of paper. So I've just taken half a sheet of a regular piece of paper, and I'm going to fold this over where there's a little piece sticking out, so like a third of the paper sticking out, just like that. And it's so that I can open on one side but not the other. Okay? What I'm going to write on this is my formula or my recipe to be able to get this math done correctly. Okay? So I'm going to put a line like this, a line like this. I'm setting up two ratios or two fractions. This one over here is going to say is, the word is, over of. And we're going to say that it equals percent over 100. Okay? And inside the flap, I want this to say part, and I want the bottom to say whole. Okay? Is over of equals percent over 100, or part over whole equals percent over 100. Okay? So that is my foldable that I'm going to need for today. And I'm going to show you how we're going to get that glued in. I want to leave myself plenty of room to be able to work. So I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on there. And I'm going to glue it down just like so. And it does fold over so it can stick out of my notebook, but it still folds up into my notebook. And I have all this space to write now. All right, so with is over of equals percent over 100. This is basically the same thing we were doing with a bar model, but it's not a picture of it. So 100 would be the total amount, okay? Percent is the number that we're working with. So what part of the 100 do we have? Now notice I said the word part. What part of the 100 do we have? Well, is the same thing as part. So you have to have your pieces lined up correctly. You have to have your part and your part lined up, or your is and your part lined up. And we know that it's out of 100, so 100 is the whole, and the word whole is right here. And if I would say that we had 15 of 20, of also represents the total, and the total at that point would just be 20. So these are words that we've been working with, but now you're going to be aware of them having a place to belong in a math problem. So is over of equals percent over 100, or part over whole equals percent over 100. Okay? So I'm going to give you the math problem. 15 is what percent of 20? So 15 is what percent of 20? So what I do is I suggest that people create boxes around their problems because it helps you. So 15 belongs to the word is, because 15 is. Okay, so they get boxed together. What belongs to the word percent? So what percent? The word what indicates that that's the unknown. This is what we're going to be looking for. So I'm going to put a question mark over it. Okay? Of 20 means that of belongs to the word 20. Okay? So 15 is what percent of 20? So now I'm going to come in and I'm going to set up my problem. I'm going to set this up with two ratios. What did we say the is was? 15 is. So your 15 goes on top. What percent? And that was where we put the question mark. So what means that's what we're looking for. This is the unknown. And we use a variable for that. Most people use X. You can use whatever you want. If your name starts with an R, you can put an R there. If your name starts with Q, you can put a Q there. It's whatever you want to put, whatever makes your heart happy. Of is 20. And if we look at our foldable, we see that of goes on the bottom. So what we have here is part of the whole. 15 out of 20. Okay? Part of the whole. And we're looking for the percent, and percent is always out of 100. It's never going to change. We are putting percent on the right-hand side of this ratio comparison, and percent is always out of 100, and so we know that we always write it over 100. 100 is always going to be there no matter what the problem is. So where does 100 go? Bottom right. If I say, hey, where do I put a 100 in a ratio comparison? You say bottom right. Okay? All right, so there's a couple ways that we can solve this. You can ask yourself, well, what do I do to 100 to get to 20? Or what do I do to 20 to get to 100? Well, it's 20 times 5 to get to 100. So you would do the same to the top. 15 times 5 will equal X. So we could do 15 times 5, 75. So X equals 75. Okay? So 15 over 20 is equal to 75 over 100. That is one way to solve these problems. Now, we experienced back in the very beginning of this unit that we can't always make this number match this number. We can't always turn it in to that. So there's other ways to do it as well. So I'm going to set up this problem again to show you another way. Okay. So with these fractions being equivalent, you know that when we're checking for equivalent fractions, we can do what we've called the butterfly method, where we would do 100 times 15, and we would write 1500 up here, and we would do 20 times 75, which would give us 1500, and we would say that they're equal because both sides equaled 1500. Well, we don't have anything to multiply the 20 by, so we're going to use a very similar method. It's called cross multiply and divide. Okay, that's the fancy term for it. It's going to look very similar to what you used in 3rd and 4th grade called the butterfly method. Okay, so I'm going to cross multiply, which means that you're going to multiply the two numbers that are across from each other, so adjacent. Okay, so 15 times, we're going to use parentheses for times 100 equals, and we're going to grab the other two, 20 times X. Okay, so grab the first cross multiple, and then we put the equal sign, and then we grab the second cross multiple. Always do the one that's in the top left going down first, and then do the bottom left going up second. Okay, so now we're just going to start solving this problem. So we're trying to get X by itself. So the first thing we need to do is simplify this side. 15 times 100 is 1500. And you're rewriting the problem every step of the way. So now I have to figure out how to get X by itself. So we're going to undo what's being done to X. Right now X is being multiplied by 20. So what is the inverse operation, or the opposite operation of multiplication? To undo multiplication, we would divide. And we know that fractions are the same thing as dividing. So you just draw a fraction bar and you put a 20 underneath. Well, 20 divided by 20 cancels each other out. So just mark them out. What you do to one side of the fraction, or to the equation, you have to do to the other side. So if I divide by 20 over here, I have to divide by 20 over here. Because if this was a seesaw, you don't want somebody to just get off and the other person to go flying. You want it to be equal. So if you take one person off over here, you need to take one person off over here so nobody goes flying off. Okay? So what I get left with on this side is just the x, because the 20's got canceled out. So now I'm going to take 100 or 1,500 and I'm going to divide it by 20. Okay, so 20 can't go into 15, but it can go into 157 times. So it'd be 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 140, 160 is too much, so back it off. That leaves us with 7. And when you subtract those out, you get 10, so bring down your 0. 20 goes into 100 5 times. Okay? And so you write that quotient, you write that answer right there. So 1,500 divided by 20 was 75. And there's your answer. 75 equals x. So both of these were ways to solve it. You do need to get very familiar and comfortable with this way because the numbers aren't going to stay nice and pretty like they were up here, 20 to 100. Okay? So there's one problem. Let's practice another. Okay, the next one I want us to do is 7 is what percent of 350? Oh, I'm sorry, you can't see that. There we go. 7 is what percent of 350? Right? So 7 is. 7 belongs to the word is. What percent? What belongs to the word percent? What indicates that that's what we're going to be looking for or searching for? That's our unknown. Of 350. So of belongs to 350. And we also know that is the same thing as part. Of is the same thing as whole. Okay? So I'm going to set this up using the formula that we put in our foldable. Is over of equals percent over, what is it? 100. 100 goes in the bottom right every single time. Where does it go? Bottom right. Where do I put 100? Bottom right. Hey brain, remember 100 goes in the bottom right. Okay? Is over of equals percent over 100. What do we have for is? 7 is. What do we have for of? Of 350. And what do we have for percent? We don't know. So this time I'm going to use an H. Okay? Just to show you that you can use whatever variable you want. Okay, so 7 over 350 can be simplified. It could be reduced into 1 over, let's see, 1 over 50. So we could do that. Or we could leave it the way it is and cross multiply and divide. So I'm going to go ahead and show you both ways because it's a good skill for you to have. So if I simplified this fraction, it would go into 1 over 50 because 7 goes into 35 5 times, and then it's out of 350, so I have to give it another place value, so it would be 150, and that would equal 100 or h over 100. So if we were able to come in here and use mental math, we would say that 50 times 2 is 100. 100 times 2, or 1 times 2 is 2. So H would equal 2. Okay. But I also want to show you how to do this using cross multiply and divide, which is the way that you really need to go ahead and get used to. So I'm going to use what you all call the butterfly method. And I'm going to rewrite everything. So 100, or 7 times 100 equals 350 times H. So I'm going to start simplifying. Means cleaning up the problem. 7 times 100 is 700. 350H, bring it down. I have to get H by itself. Right now it's being multiplied by 350, so that means I want to use the inverse operation. I want to divide by 350, and it cancels out, but I don't want H to go flying off of the seesaw, so that means I need to also divide by 350 over here. Okay, so 350 goes into 700 2 times. Okay. So this would simplify into 2 over 1. So I'm going to show you it simplifies into 2 over 1. And so 2 divided by 1 is 2, so that will leave us with 2H. Okay, and see, we got the same answer in both of them. Camera up, and I'm going to turn over to the other side. Okay, so here we have what percent of 900 is 45. What percent, those two words go together, so we're going to be finding percent of 900, those two words go together, so this is the whole, is 45 goes together, so this is the part. So I'm going to set up my ratio comparison. Is over of equals percent over 100. Is would be 45. And we said that that's over of 900 equals percent. Well, we said that that's unknown. So this time I'm going to use S. And 100 always goes on the bottom right. Okay, I can see that there's a pattern here, so it looks like I'm going to divide by 9. Just like that. 900 divided by 9 equals 100. 45 divided by 9 is 5, so S equals 5. Okay. For those of you who are not mental math fans, let me show you how to do it the other way. So 45 over 100 equals S, or 900 equals S over 100. Cross multiply. So we have 45 times 100 equals the other cross multiply, 900 times S. So 45 times 100 is 4,500. We're going to get S by itself by dividing by 900. Do it to the other side. I'm going to cancel some zeros out. Okay. What is 45 divided by 9? it would be 5, and there is your answer. We'll try one more like this, and then we'll move on to a different style. 81 is what percent of 250? 81 is what percent of 250? 81 is what percent, so there's what we're looking for, and then of 250. Is over of equals percent over 100. 81 is, the of is 250, and the percent is unknown, and so I'm going to use a C. And I'm going to go ahead and just start off a cross multiply. 81 times 100 equals 250C. So 81 times 100 is 8100. So I'm going to divide by 250, so it cancels out. And I need to do it over here so C doesn't go flying off of the seesaw. Okay. And I'm going to just set up my division problem like this. Okay, both of these numbers end in a 0, so you can take a 0 off. So now you have 810 divided by 25. So 25 goes into 81 3 times. Okay. Bring my 0 down. 25 goes into 60 2 times. And right here is where a decimal would go. We bring it down. Remember that 0 disappeared because we canceled it out. So we're going to bring a 0 down. 25 goes into 100 4 times. So your answer is 32.4. So 32.4 equals C. 81 is 32.4% of 250. Okay, so that's the part that we're going to focus on today. It's just finding what the percent is. All right, tomorrow we will focus on finding another number when you've been given something else. Okay, so look forward to the assignment that's going to be posted for you. Go ahead and practice it, and then you can get it into me. If you have any questions, I'll be available for tutoring at 3 o'clock. Thank you.